Hey everyone, thanks for taking a moment to join with me today. I wanted to run by what's an important question, but sometimes gets picked up and asked to us, and that's the question of whether or not someone should hire a financial advisor. Like, do I really need one? Is it beneficial? Is it necessary? Can I get by without it? What are the advantages to me doing this? And presumably there's a cost, and so like, are those advantages worth the cost? Are you going to pay for yourself, or is this just going to be a drag, a loss carry a negative carry on my finances? And I think the answer to whether or not you should hire a financial advisor ultimately varies, and really there's a bit of a depends. It depends on a number of things. But in my experience and in my thought, as your income goes up and as your financial situation increases, especially as a result of income, and then if we are saving and investing money and we're seeing, wealth accumulation take place, and there's more of a legacy that's being left behind, and questions, especially with that higher income of tax efficiency, and where maybe little mistakes now start to really have a much higher expense to them because of the higher taxes that you pick up with the higher income. It becomes more and more really an obvious choice or answer to this question of like, yes, you should hire a financial advisor and be working with them. And will they pay for themselves? I would say most likely, if not guaranteed. Now, why would I say most likely and not just guaranteed outright? It really depends, I think, on the person in question. I've come across a large number of people, and I'm sure you have too. And not everyone, not everyone is the same. And there are some folks who, even though they have, their focus is in the career that they do. If you're working with us, you're a physician, so it's in the medical career. That's what they do. That's what they focus. That's what you've studied on. That's what you know well. And most of your mental brain power and energy and education is all zeroed in, committed to this endeavor. But you have hobbies and activities and things you like to do on the side. And there are some who like personal finance. You could just describe them as a personal finance junkie, and they want to study these financial matters. Like, that's what they want to do when they have free time and they can sit in their cozy chair and read a book or listen to a podcast on a run or a walk, or they're exercising, or just however, they're taking in information. Like, they want to spend their free time reading this information and staying up on it. Like, they find it interesting and fascinating and exciting, and it's got their attention and their interest. And so we would maybe describe that person as just like this hardcore do-it-yourselfer. Like, I've got it. This is in my wheelhouse. This is what I want to do. So even though their focus is off on something else, like, they are completely fine spending their free time, to working on personal finance. And if that's you, if I have just described you, then truthfully, it's going to be difficult working to justify the cost of working with a financial advisor. It could still make sense. It may, even in that situation where someone's really gun ho, it can maybe still make sense to work with an advisor. But it's going to be difficult because ultimately, we're all working with the same material here. And so if you've spent all your time on the side studying this stuff, there's very much good chance that what is what I know, and I don't know if I can add much more beyond what you've studied. I mean, it's not as if it's a whole different subject matter. So if you're reading and studying and learning about it, like I've read and learned and studied about it, then we've both learned and read and studied about it. Like, there it is. But so in that type of situation, it'll be difficult, I think, for the fees of a financial advisor to fully pay off. It could still make sense even in that situation, because usually, if you were married and one of you feels this way, it's not likely that your spouse feels just as gung-ho and just as committed and wants to do the same. In fact, I would say that's a rarity where we find two individuals living married together who are both gun-ho on the personal finance. It's usually just one of you. And then there's risk of like, well, it's great that you're that committed and you're that good and you're that focused on these personal financial matters. But, what about your spouse? Are they, and what happens, if something happens to you? What are you going to do in that situation? And, are you comfortable leaving your significant other, your spouse, in this position where not only are they dealing with the loss of you through presumably a premature death or divorce or something, something's happened. They have to deal with that, but now they also have to deal with all these financial matters that they weren't interested in and they were leaning on you to take care of, and they don't have anyone. And now they're looking maybe suddenly in a bit of panic or deep concern for someone to help them. And that's just not a good place for anybody to be at when you go out into the marketplace to be what's called a motivated buyer. And you're in a place of your negotiating power is jeopardized and you're vulnerable. People take advantage of that, quite frankly, and you don't want to leave someone else jeopardized. So that's the do-it-yourselfer. The much broader context, though, of financial advisors helping individuals, it really applies to folks who are just, this isn't what they do. Personal finance isn't that interesting to them. Either it's not that interesting to them or they just don't have that much time for it. And it could be a combination of both. Either intellectually, they just would rather not spend their free time studying personal financial matters. They just don't. Like, that's just not what they want to do. Or even if they do find it interesting, they may just I just don't have the time. Like, my career is demanding, my family is young, or there's kids and there's commitments there, and I need to work on that. Or maybe I have other hobbies too that I would like to do. Maybe you want to go fishing or bike riding or exercising, or maybe you're handy and you want to work around the house. And you just when you have some time off from work, you would rather refresh yourself doing those things rather than studying financial matters. And so the people who really need a financial advisor, in my opinion, are the folks of these latter camps who either just don't have the time because work is demanding. That tends to be what it is. Work is demanding. It just drains everything from you already. And, you just don't have either the time or the intellectual capacity to continue to study these things like they deserve to be studied. Or again, you just don't find it interesting. But maybe you find it important, maybe you don't. There can be this mixture of it's kind of important, maybe it's not. And what will happen, this is where really deeply a financial advisor starts to pay for themselves, is you just don't attend to the matter because it's not that pressing. And you're like, well, I'll get to it tomorrow. I'll get to it tomorrow. I'll get to it tomorrow. And while you keep waiting for tomorrow to happen, there can be these opportunities, these mistakes, either opportunities that are getting missed or mistakes that are happening that have a cost that hurt you. And that cost, especially if you're higher income, that cost can start to become significant and easily start to pay for the cost of what you would pay for a financial advisor. And so generally, I would say you need to rate yourself. How gung-ho and dedicated are you? And unless you're no, I'm super gung-ho, I'm super dedicated, this is really what I want to do. Unless you can say that's me, I think you should be looking for a financial advisor and have them help you make these decisions and help you prioritize this and make sure that things get done and they get done in a timely way and that they're optimizing your financial situation. Because there can be optimization on student loan debt, as an example. There can be optimization on taxes. There can be optimization on how your money's being invested or managed. There can be optimization on just lifestyle. How much can be spent on the house? How much can be spent on cars? How much can be spent on vacations? How much should I be saving away for retirement? When can I retire? What are going to be the future sources of my retirement income? There are a number of considerations here. And across all those considerations, there's opportunity for mistakes to be made. And they aren't, necessarily deathly mistakes. They're not going to ruin you, bring you, to complete financial loss. They could. I mean, some mistakes could get to be really catastrophic, but, they can be, they're not going to necessarily ruin you mistakes, but they are maybe enough in mistakes where it's I could have just as well paid for an advisor who would have then sidestepped those mistakes and maybe even improved and enhanced upon them, where I'm actually not just simply paying, the service is paying for itself, but I'm actually making money. I'm winning off this relationship, and ideally that's what it would be. I would love that in each and every client situation we work with, you are winning by working with us. You're coming out heads and tails. But it's difficult as to whether or not that's actually what happens, because it depends on, this whole other, the Robert Frost poem of, two trails, which path to take. There's a fork in the woods. I don't know what your path would look like if you never worked with me as an advisor. I don't know what that financial pathway would play out. I know what it would look like if you did, because I work with you, and now, we're going to give you our advice and move you along. So it's hard to say like what's the difference here, because we have to kind of hypothetically imagine what you would do if you weren't working with me, and like I don't know how to imagine that. Like it's just make believe. So I like what we do. What I guarantee, what we promise our clients, is we're going to put your finances in their optimal arrangement, and we're going to have conversations with you about what we think that is. It's not like always the exact same solution across the board. Optimal is what makes sense on a client by client, household by household basis. But we're going to work with you, have the conversations, help to simplify these decisions, and make it easier for you to decide which way you want to go. And we do that through fee only financial advising. I think there's a difference in advisors and who you can work with, and financial advisors aren't all of the same caliber, and they're not all compensated in the same way. And we've already had a video on that. I'll leave you to watch that video if you want to learn more. But I do think it matters that you work with an advisor that has your best interest at heart, and that is being compensated in a way in which the more, the manner of which they're being compensated, the advisor is being compensated, incentivizes them to be growing your net worth. Not just growing it, but like to optimize it, to have it, build it out in a way that it's the right fit, the right situation for you as a client. And clients vary. Some are more aggressive, some are more conservative, some are undecided, people just vary. And so having an advisor to try to map this to you and help you decide what makes sense in your situation, what the right decision is for you, I think is incredibly valuable, incredibly important. And then the scope to which this pays for itself, it depends on the person. Hopefully, every time that we work with someone, we're paying for ourselves. But even in my take, like even let's just say we are just outright costing somebody, like they could probably do this themselves and still come out just as well without us. Like maybe, I mean, there's a lot of times I think that's probably not true. But let's just say that hypothetically, even if this is just a cost to a person, like there is still the benefit that you're getting here of working with another human being, having an accountability, having someone else to bounce ideas off of. And, we spend our money. Like part of the reason why any of us, earns our money is to have the opportunity to spend it. And some of the things we spend our money on are, maybe if you want to speak about it, like kind of silly or frivolous or unnecessary. It's just like, well, that it's just you having a good time, whatever that good time might be. It's just you spending your money to have, a good time. And that's okay. Like, and it's like, it's okay that like, I don't know if I need an advisor, but it's okay to have one. It's not like it's a bad use of money. Like as one person put it, like there's a lot more stupid ways you can spend your money than choosing to hire out a financial advisor to manage and oversee and guide you in your finances. So I don't try to guarantee our clients that you're going to win by working with us. Like our fees are going to be an investment and they're going to make you money, and it's going to not just pay for itself, but it's a return. I mean, I'd love that. And there are some clients which I would dare say, like, I'm pretty much certain, yeah, like if you weren't working with me, I think your finances would be, a mess. Like we're helping to keep that mess from happening. But I don't think every person we work with or every person out there's finances would be a mess if they weren't working with us. But they still work with us, and want to know why? Because it takes a burden off their shoulders. It allows them to focus in on their career and to do what matters most to them and where their focus is at. And it allows them to focus either on their career, which is where they make their money, which isn't a bad thing in some ways, by deepening your focus there and giving that attention over this other scattered matter, your finances, which you're kind of uncertain about. Like you might just make money, and that alone, like the fact that you're more focused in your career, could start to pay for the service in itself. But that aside, maybe you just want to spend more time with your family. Like you just don't want to spend your free time studying personal finance. And if that's who you are, then there's no shame or guilt or harm in that. Like you don't have to become an expert in this. Like that's what we're here for. That's what we do. And we're really good at it, and we really care about the people we work with, and we're really committed to doing what's right for you, what's right in your situation, what's right for your family. And we fundamentally believe that if we do what's right for you, we'll in turn be rewarded for that. And that'll allow us to do what's right for us and what's right for our family. And so there is a collaborative work here. We want our clients to succeed. We want to see them do well. We want the service to make sense for them where they feel like they're winning. We want them to be happy to be paying the fees that they pay us. And it actually makes them smile where they're like, that was a really good decision. Like hiring Ben and his team out, like that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Like that's what I would love every single one of our clients to say and think and feel. Like that's what I want for them. I want them to love our engagement. And thankfully we have that. We have clients who, they tell us, they're like, you guys have been such a lifesaver for us. Our life's just complicated. We've got a lot going on in our career. We've got a lot going on in our family life. And there's just a lot of changes, especially in the student loan space, but tax space. And there's so much to keep up on. I would never be able to do all this. And all I would be doing is just be worried and frustrated and annoyed and not being able to give this the time and attention that it deserves. And then consequently, because I'm afraid to make the wrong decision, not take action, and then just delay. And like all that goes away when I work with you. You guys know what to do. You know what the right next step's going to be. And this is just a weight that's been lifted off my shoulders. And I start to say, amen, like this is just great. This is what we're all about. This is why we have the business. This is why we study too, is so that we can focus on what we do best, so that you can focus on what you do best. And both of us are winning together. So, if any of this interests you, maybe some of this resonated, or you're like, yeah, you know what, actually, that kind of speaks to me. Like me, I'm kind of find myself in that boat. I'm Ben. I'm the founder of Bonafide Finance. We're a firm that works with high income earners. We specialize within physicians, doctors. We want to help folks who have committed their life to what they do and who are really good at it. And part of that commitment is not having focused on finances most times, almost always. Like for us to be able to step in and be that trusted guide, that trusted resource to help them make the right decisions in your finances. So please reach out to us if this is of interest. We'd love to schedule a call and chat with you to see if we're a good fit together. And, we're looking to create more and more content here. So, subscribe to the channel, to the newsletter, and, please give us your feedback. If we can give you any suggestions, if you can give us any suggestions, if there's items that you want to learn more about, we have ideas and we're working on those ideas, but we just love your feedback. It helps us to know for sure what direction to take on what we're making. But hopefully this answers your question. Why hire a financial advisor? I think again, as I told you, it's a mixed, it's a nuanced question. I don't think it's the right answer for everybody, but I think there's a lot of people it's a good answer for it. And I could even argue that maybe it's the right answer for everybody, which especially if you're married and you have a spouse, who's you're really gung ho, but the spouse isn't so much. I think even then, like, well, what's your backup plan, in that situation? So even for you do-it-yourselfers out there, if nothing else, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, good on you. I love it. I'm a do-it-yourselfer too in a lot of ways. But what's your backup plan for your spouse? And at least have that, have something figured out there is what I would encourage or plead with you. Okay, folks, take care. Thanks so much for listening. Bye now.